Yo, what do you mean by that? I said, well, this, and this. If you didn't know any better, you would think that this has just been like franchised out. Like someone has licensed the name Sneakercon. I don't know, man. I might have just burnt the bridge with Sneakercon. It is what it is. But hey, what up and welcome to another episode of Creased, and today we're going to be talking sneaker events in Australia. For the last couple of years, I want to say I've been to a lot of sneaker events. I've been to Sneakercon in Sydney. I went to Sneakerland in Sydney as well. And then I've also been to a bunch of events that the Kickstand puts on. It's more than just sneakers. And with the recent happenings and rumblings after Sneakercon Melbourne, I thought we'd break down why it is events sort of happen like this in Australia. So let's do a little deep dive and go back to my first ever event that I went to, which was the Kickstand in Sydney. So what are we looking for?
Don't know. What are you after?
I'd love to get a pair of threes in a trade. Love to get rid of some pairs.
Wish the car would fit more shoes.
I don't think I can fit anymore. I need to get B-roll of that. When I went to that, had a lot of fun. I probably had more fun like shooting hoops than I did anything else. I always get sidetracked by these things. My attention span is not great. But had a lot of fun. People that I know through Instagram, everything like that. And gradually that's what I've found within Kickstand events is it's more about the community. You're more likely to come across people selling their collection than just say cashing in on whatever the latest silhouette that's going off is. I have found I found steals. I haven't necessarily always purchased them, but I find the best steals are at the Kickstand events. There is a pair of Columbia 4s that I've looked at for 2 years in a row and still haven't bought them. Maybe next year is the trick. I don't know. But I remember like the Terror Squad Air Force Ones dropped, sold out everywhere. First time I had my table, which was last year, we did a table, sold a bunch of pairs and then bought them. Unfortunately they were too big and now my guy Bearded Sneaker has them. But that just encapsulates the community aspect of the Kickstand events, right? $10 entry fee. Not very much. You get a raffle ticket on entry. Plenty of giveaways within those raffle tickets. There's also usually like free Doritos. I've been given like plenty of like cleaning stuff and everything. People just giving stuff away for free all day. The $10 that you spend at this event, you've left with more than $10 of value. The difference between say Sydney and Melbourne, I'd say Melbourne is a smaller space, much smaller space than what the guys do in Sydney, but I'd say the community aspect in Melbourne is probably bigger. So make it that of what you will. But there is also Sneakerland, which came to Sydney last year for the first time, but isn't coming to Sydney this year. They've done one in Melbourne before. They're primarily based in Perth. They came to Sydney and this is what happened. For whatever reason, I have a feeling that it's similar to why these bigger international events aren't as extravagant when they come to Australia. I think it's logistical. They're primarily based in Perth. For them to come over and do what they do in Perth, it's a little bit harder. You're going to have feet on the ground over here. But what I found with Sneakerland is they offered more things to do for your casual fan. At the end of the day, like if we look at sneakers and everything like that, there's only a small percentage that are as fanatical as us, right? Then you just got people that just want a fresh pair of kicks when they go out or whatever. Maybe they got like 3-4 pairs. They probably haven't got all this. You know what I mean? Even though this is a close-up shot, but you know what I'm saying. But there was plenty of activities for the kids. There was plenty of activities. I mean, again, I got sidetracked by the basketball. I thought for sure I was going to be taking home some vouchers. It didn't end up happening, but I'll be training for if they ever do it again. When I reached out to them to find out about Sydney for this year, they said they weren't going to be doing it. Now, I went to the event, it was pretty packed. There was a lot of times where you couldn't move. So I feel like on that front, it felt like a successful event. Maybe they could have had a few more vendors. I don't know. I feel like I remember hearing the guys from Good Kids saying they weren't going to do a vendor there because it made no sense to them, but they also aren't vendors anywhere, really. There was a bunch of like brands launching and everything like that, and this felt like as close to a big like American style sneaker event that we were going to get until Sneakercon was announced. It was coming back. First time since all the events of 2020, right? I was pretty excited. On the website, it's got all the usual stuff. eBay will be doing free authentications, retail drops, special guests, giveaways, all this type of stuff, but this is what happened. I reimagine there. Travis, shorts. There were no, well, I can't say no special guests, right? Because they had two dudes that had a huge lineup that were like, we're cashing out on everything. And they were paying absolute peanuts. Some people like waited in line 2-3 hours just to get lowballed. Where if you went out to the trading pit, like what I did, I sold a couple pairs and was able to do that. In that regard, I enjoyed the day anyway, because for me, like, there's a bunch of people there that I'm familiar with. We have this shared passion and the community aspect comes into it. So for that part, I enjoyed. There was no retail drops. Special guest, maybe you can let it slide. The two random dudes buying stuff. Apparently they're big, I don't know. I've never seen them. This isn't like any shade, I just never heard of them. I was hoping for like, I don't know, like a Jeff Staple. I heard 2J's he was gonna be there maybe. Kai Somar would be cool. Something. But there was nothing. Apart from these two dudes cashing out. And giveaways, you could get like free Monster if you played a game or whatever. There was nothing on the stage. There was no MC, like host or whatever. There was nothing. Like, I'm pretty sure, like I heard from people that paid for this, like VIP, whatever, you got like a bag and all this stuff. Like, I'm not even sure they got their kit. I'm not gonna definitively say they didn't get their stuff, but they brought a little bit of merch. They had big balls hanging from the sky that said Sneakercon. That's pretty much all they did. Everything else was like local, You know what I mean? Like local vendors, local businesses, everything like that. And again, that aspect's always going to be there, but for me, similar to what I said about Sneakerland, but on a much bigger scale, is logistically it is hard to do that. But there were enough people coming through the door. What was it, like 40 bucks? 40 bucks? I don't know, it just felt like there could have been more. I mean, there was no food or drink. There was no food being served or whatever. One thing about Sneakerland is they had a bunch of different food options. Shout outs to the juice bar at Sneakercon Sydney, because they were an absolute lifesaver. I would have gone back and forth a bunch of times just purely because it was the only thing you could get to drink. But then they announced Melbourne. And had I had a better experience at Sydney, I would have flown in to Melbourne. Honestly would have. It's a bit of content, bit of fun, weekend away. I got plenty of friends in Melbourne, just in the sneaker scene alone these days. But like even my time with music and everything like that, in general, like I just know a lot of people in Melbourne. That's why I go like 2-3 times a year. I just started seeing the same sort of stuff being advertised for it, like how they were for Sydney, but no real definitive, this is what's happening at Melbourne. Like I saw that for Sydney. And I also know, because, you know, I come from a music background. Not only like as an artist, but I put on promotions and events myself. So I understand what is and what isn't possible, and what things would need to be to get to certain points and everything like that. So I kind of came into it with a bit more expectation for Sydney, but I could understand to a point. Where I couldn't understand is it's been advertised that this is what's happening. eBay wasn't there doing authentication. There's no food, there's no retail drops, there's no giveaways, no nothing. The only people I saw from Sneakercon were 2 people sitting at a merch desk, and the merch sold out almost instantly. Good for them, they got their money, everything like this. But if you didn't know any better, you would think that this has just been like franchised out. Like someone has licensed the name Sneakercon and did what they did in Sydney and Melbourne. But that's Sydney, this was Melbourne. Now this is some clips. I wasn't there. Shout outs to Glenn. He sent me a couple videos, said I could use them. One specifically we'll get into later. But then I also just went through YouTube and I found this dude who did a really cool vlog, like Bruce Della Cerna, I believe that's how you pronounce it. He did a cool vlog there, showcased going there and what was about and everything like this. But mainly what I wanted to do and show this, and you know, make sure you go check out his full vlog and his channel, because this showcases like the size of it. Now the venue in Sydney, it seemed like that they had a separator and they're only utilizing half the space. This feels like the same, but it's an even smaller space from what I'm seeing. I want to say Sydney had stuff on the wall, a row there, a row there, a row there, and a wall, maybe. I'm gonna say like 4 to 5 rows essentially if you're going across. This didn't look like it had that. I don't know, I could be wrong. I'm judging this off the videos that I've seen and the countless things that I'm seeing in people's disappointment, but it looks incredibly small. Like, this isn't what they're advertising. When you go to the website, they're talking about 300 plus vendors, they're talking 100,000 plus products, and they're talking bulk buyers are coming through to cash out over $500,000 worth of product. Did that happen at this one? I don't think so, but it's not. There's a couple other reasons why this isn't happening too in Sydney and Melbourne, but again, it doesn't seem like eBay was there. I should definitely like send a message to Glenn and double check. I don't remember seeing eBay on the flyer for this one like there was.
A few moments later.
Send this message in real time. Well, let's see if we get the answer, but it doesn't look like eBay was doing their free authentications like they did in, say, America and what they advertised and everything like this. The other part of that is over here, a little bit behind the scenes type, a little bit of shop talk, but over here, the authentication process is done by a secondary company. It's not just done at eBay. Like, they've outsourced this, and that's where, if you've ever had anything that didn't pass for whatever, like I had something didn't pass, it said the condition wasn't exactly what I said. They're brand new, never been worn, factory lace, still got the stickers in them, everything like that. They were like, nah, it's not right. I don't know, you can't even question it and like ask them like what they're seeing, why they've made this decision. Where I feel like with StockX, anytime I've had an issue, and most of the time when it was an issue, when I just got rid of things on StockX, it was the size. I had a 10.5 instead of a 10 and vice versa. But I'm going off topic. This, you spent $40 to go to this. Like, I know one of the things the boys were saying were prices were absolutely insane. Now, I get it a little bit because you've got to pay for your vendor. You got to pay for your table, everything like that. Maybe you got staff with you. I don't know. Me personally, I just don't pay resale. But the prices, Sneakercon themselves can't control. They essentially let people come through, be vendors, everything like that. They don't vet them and say, oh, you can only sell this at this price. Like, that'd be insane, right? I have heard of other events saying they want to see your inventory. I don't know how strict that is. So that's why I'm not going to go like into full anything about that. But what are the reasons why? Like, if we compare American Sneakercon or Asian Sneakercon or Europe Sneakercon to an Australian one, they're chalk and cheese, right? Concurrently, they were running New York and Melbourne. Melbourne was over the weekend, so was New York. Literally, like, they had, with their partnership with eBay, they were hiding sneakers through the city of New York to promote Sneakercon, like free sneakers. They didn't give shit away at Sydney. I should clarify with Melbourne, because obviously I wasn't there. I'm sending messages to people I know that went there. But, you know, they brag about these retail drops. No retail drops. Giveaways, none. There's games you can play for prizes, none. The thing is, and I said this earlier, is logistically, it's not as easy to do as over there. It's like a 20+ hour flight from America to here. If you're getting any sort of special guest, they didn't ask to go to Australia, you've asked them to go to Australia. So that means they're in the best bargaining position. You want me to fly to Australia, 20-hour flight. It's not going to be economy. They're going to want business or maybe first class, right? They're going to want some extra leg room. They want to be as comfortable as possible to do that trip. The other thing, it's a lot easier to have boots on the ground with the preparation of the event and the setup of the event when it's like a couple hours away. Like maybe it's a state away, it's a city away, rather than 20 something hours. I remember when I was a kid watching the Up in Smoke tour on DVD, and you see the crazy backdrops, the lowriders, everything like this. When I turned, I want to say 17, I went and seen Exhibit live. They had a flag, like a banner. That was the production quality of the event. That was it. You can't bring all that over here without eating up costs. And in that regard, like, ticket prices go up. If ticket prices go up, especially in this economy at the moment, do people want to come? I remember seeing Eminem, and I want to say something like $1 million, and it was his own production. And he brings everyone over, engineers, band, everything, right? There's a little stage set up, everything is shipped over. What's crazy was the sound was dog shit. It just was. For whatever reason, maybe it's just the venue, how the acoustics worked in that open air format, not sure. But that goes into the ticket price. I had like one of the most basic seats you could get, and it was $150. That's crazy, right? So we're talking $40. There was a bunch, like you would say a few thousand people went to this event, right? So $40,000. How much are things costing to bring? You're gonna have at least a couple staff there to bring your merch. You're making on merch. Your vendors, you're making, like, you could at least bring like 1 or 2 guests, I feel like. Yes, they're gonna have to be on business class, first class, whatever. Yes, they're gonna have to get some accommodation. They're gonna have to be have a fee as well. But surely you've built up these relationships over the years to where the point, like, it's not just gonna be flat tax, right? So logistically, it's a nightmare, yeah? Bringing people over here, staff over here, guests over here, but also like merch, maybe the giveaways, the retail drops. If they're based in America trying to do a retail drop in Australia, you're dealing with basically 2 different companies. If you're going to Nike, Nike America, Nike Australia, 2 different companies within the same thing, but you get what I'm saying. The other part of it too is, in general, Australia just doesn't have a big population. It just doesn't. If we look at, Asia, they're having 1 million people come through a sneaker event. In America, it's tens of thousands. I would say we got a couple to few thousand people throughout the whole day, but it's chalk and cheese. So while it sounds like I'm giving excuses to Sneakercon, I'm kind of like telling it from both sides. As a punter, I was disappointed. As, someone that's put events on, everything like that, I can see why. The biggest problem is not being upfront with the information, though. Like, to give you an example, there's a festival over in America. I think it's called Lovers and Friends Festival, and it's basically like hip-hop, R&B, and whatever, right? And there's like 200 artists on this bill, and every single one of them you've heard of, right? If 4 of them came to Australia and toured together, it would be like a $300 ticket. But logistically, if they just do this in Vegas, they can make money. It's crazy. Hip-hop festivals, whatever it is. When we get a festival, like, they'll put on 4 or 5 big acts, right? Then the rest of it will be made up of mid-tier acts, local acts, emerging acts, everything like that. Because logistically, it makes sense. if you were to bring the exact same lineup from this Lovers and Friends festival that happens in Las Vegas every year, from top to the bottom, there is no way on God's green earth that it could make money over here. Even if, like, you remember last year, it might have been early this year, I'm pretty sure it was last year, they announced ComplexCon is coming to Australia. And the promo video looked insane. It was like, yo, we're finally going to get something to the level of all these other sneaker conventions in Australia. All of a sudden it goes quiet. Nothing happens. Unfortunately, the sale of Complex hindered ComplexCon coming to Australia. Nothing's been said since. And then the initial date they had, you know, I think it was May this year it was meant to be. Then it didn't come. Nothing's been said since. I don't know if the sale's gone through. From what I heard, not from what I heard, I know the artists that they were bringing over. They were bringing international artists, not music that I would essentially listen to, but I know they're a big artist. One of them I kind of already guessed, because I saw a friend of mine that I know through music who's a really big promoter. He was promoting this event, right? Then I thought, okay, who's he worked with in the past? Yep, okay. Who then also could be a sneakerhead. Then I got shown the flyer and everything that was, you know, sent around to media and everything like that. And I know. Should I say it? Nah, leave it as a surprise. I'm all for the surprise, but relevant, but not my cup of tea. I think it'd be interesting talking sneakers with him, because he is that type of dude in the sneaker scene, but not my music. Not my kind of music. I'd rather you bring Fat Joe through. So yeah, it wasn't Fat Joe. But, or Khaled. Khaled would be fire. Having a conversation with Khaled, see if it's actually the facade or like the character, like where it melts in the middle, all that type of stuff. I'm getting off track, guys. This is what I do, but for me, if we look at the Kickstand, it's more than just sneaker events, which there is one literally this weekend coming in Sydney. If we look at that, for me, value for money, $10. Plenty of giveaways, plus the raffles, plus you got food trucks. At the Sydney event, there was no food. There was like no food or drink. That's insanity. How can you have an event with no food? I'm hearing at the Melbourne one, there was a built-in kiosk within that area. So that was just there, right? That's not something that they organised. Maybe they organised that room because it's got the kiosk, I don't know. But there was like nothing special about it. Like with Sneakerland, they had like I want to say between 3 and 4 food options, and they were like good food, like decent food. It wasn't just like hot chips and a sausage roll. I want to say it's more than just sneakers. Value for money, $10. You always leave with more. You always leave with more than the $10 you spend, right? Regardless of what happens. Whether it be giveaways, freebies, raffles, whatever, like. And this isn't just me because, like, you know, me and Jay are cool. I've been to a bunch of the events. I'm also promoting it. I'm not paid to promote this. This is my genuine feelings. But, like, the first time I even tried Doritos was at a Kickstand event. One of their major sponsors. Had them there for anyone who wants them. They had sneaker laundry products for free, like random giveaways throughout the day. Plus, if you buy your raffle tickets, you can win shoes, you can win 2K, you can win, I think they had a speaker one time. They've all types of stuff. You're bound to leave with more than what you came in with. And that's not even talking about if you're going shoe shopping. The steals are there. So we got community, affordability, value for money. For me, I think the Kickstand events are the best in Australia. If you look at Sneakerland, I don't remember what the price was. They did actually give me a media pass, but I don't think it was $10. I'm just gonna say I don't think it was $10. I want to say they had more for the casual fan, for the kids, things like that. There was more things to do at one time, right? That was in Carriage Works. It's a big space, so naturally they had to fill it up with stuff, right? I did see people I knew there. I didn't see as many people as I knew there. I would say the community aspect wasn't there as much as it is with the Kickstand. There's pros and cons with all of these, except for the Sneakercon events. I can say like from within Sydney, the prices were fairly decent. There were some decent prices getting around. I just got distracted by things that were happening, people I'm running into, people asking for photos and things like that, that I'm like, oh yeah, I was gonna buy that, until like I was watching the video back. But the Melbourne one just looked... I actually messaged and commented and I was like, yo, are you guys actually going to be like delivering on what you said this time? Because you didn't in Sydney. No one ever responded, replied, whatever. People were just like asking me like in the comments, other punters that were saying, yo, what do you mean by that? I said, well, this and this. I don't know, man. I might have just burnt the bridge with Sneakercon. It is what it is. But if you advertise something, you promote a certain thing, you need to deliver. That's my opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Did you go to Melbourne? Did you go to Sydney? What's your favorite sneaker convention moment? Maybe you went way back in the day when it was pretty dope. I don't know. That's what I hear anyway. At the moment, I said it before, it feels like someone's just licensing the name Sneakercon and making all this money off it. But let me know in the comments. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. We'll be back with more content every week. Peace.